Good evening, BTAC committee. Your first item of business this evening is the election of your chairman for the next municipal year. May I please take nominations, seconds and any statements, please? Thank you. Councillor Danny.
Hello, good evening, everybody. Thank you. What I would like probably to suggest, because I think we can keep the same chairman and deputy for the next year.
Nominating Councillor Pierpoint.
Yes,
we have to do it
and
officially.
we keep the same ones, I think. And
we have to do it officially.
Easier, yes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Do we have a seconder for Councillor Pierpoint? Hands are going everywhere. Councillor Martin, seconded. Are there any further nominations for the position of chairman?
Keep that.
Thank you for that. That's a great honour to be thought of, but I would rather decline at this present time.
Thank you, Councillor Izard, for withdrawing. Thank you, committee. We need to officially vote on this. So all in favour of Councillor Barry Pierpoint being reappointed to the position of chairman, please clearly show. And that is unanimous. Thank you, Councillor Pierpoint. Would you care to come and join us, please, sir? Thank you.
Oh, do you know where to go? Yeah, I know. It's easy to keep the same team. No, because
Committee, we are still live. Thank you.
guys, you nominate and in second will become the one who cancels. I think it's better, please. Keep the same team and let's go with it.
Turn your mic off, sir. We are still live.
Good evening, councillors. First of all, I'd like to thank you for the vote proposed on the seconder and the vote of confidence from all of you. I'm very honoured and very pleasured to be your chairman again. And thank you for the confidence that you have in me to continue in this role. And I always say that I'm here to work with the wards in BTAC, and I'm also here to make sure that all the residents in the wards of BTAC are well served. And I will serve you all to my best of ability. Thank you. I'd like to take nominations for your vice chair. I'd like to nominate Councillor Tricia Marson. Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Cresswell. Pardon? Are there any other nominations for vice chair? All in favour? Can you just raise your hand? Right, Councillor Marson, would you like to come and join me and as the vice chair? Thank you. Go on.
Yeah.
I also would just like to say thank you very much for your confidence in me as Vice Chairman. Thank you very much, everybody.
Right, we'll move on. Housekeeping rules. As you know, the restroom facilities are available for ladies on this floor and halfway down the main stairwell for the gentlemen. In the event of a firearm sounding, officers will escort everyone out of the building to the nearest fire safety point in the car park. Will all persons addressing this meeting please do so through the microphone system. At all times, this meeting is being recorded. Please be advised that abuse or intimidation of any kind will not be tolerated. Anyone who is deemed to breach this requirement will be warned and asked to refrain. If the behaviour persists, they will be asked to leave the meeting. We'll now move into part one of this evening's meeting, and we'll firstly address the preliminary items. I'm going to receive apologies for absence. I'll ask Karen to provide the details.
Thank you, Chairman. We have apologies from Councillor Andorian, Councillor Paul Gleeson and Councillor Lena Sivikian. Thank you.
Thank you, Karen. To the minutes of the previous meeting held on the 28th of March, do I have the members' permission to sign these as a true record? Oh, you have a question, sorry. Okay, so Councillor Izard, off you go.
Yeah, regarding the member of the public who attended the last meeting, have we been able to answer his query?
Yes, we did actually. He wrote to the Democratic Services, and they forwarded it on to a copy to myself and along to Christian and was his surname Christian Allen, and also to Matt as well, Matt Fisher, and they've both responded back to Mr. Wolf, I think it was, who wrote to us. So that's been dealt with now, hasn't it?
Yes, Chair. The basic Christian Allen will pick up in the future as it will sit in his area, the item he raised. So hopefully that's all in hand.
Mr. Wolf is very proactive anyway, and if there's anything he's not happy about, he'll soon be back knocking on our door. So rest assured, we will deal with all his questions and queries, as we do with everybody else who contacts us. Thank you, Councillor Izard. Thank you. Right, so I'm going to sign the minutes of the meeting. Thank you very much. That was of the 28th of March. Seems a long time ago since we sat here. We'll move on. Update on actions from the minutes of the last meeting. Anything from you, Phil?
There are no further actions, updates, Chairman.
Thank you. Can we receive any declaration of interest from members? Are there any?
Sorry, Chairman, not a matter of interest. I just wanted to know, well, first of all, is the door open downstairs so that members of the public can come attend? I noticed when I came up the stairs, the door was shut. So is the door open?
There's only the front door of the main building which is opened, and the security men are in there. It's closed, but they are in a presence. If somebody comes, they will let them in.
All right, okay, that's fine, thank you. The other thing I was going to mention is that if we're talking about the minutes, on page 4, I raised, Councillor Stephen would have queried whether, when they will be carrying out a review of the footway lighting, the Assistant Director advised us was on the agenda for the first meeting in the next financial year, which I presume is now. But he mentioned the Property Officer, Nigel Hall, who commenced work on this, had recently retired. So do we have an update on that, Chairman?
I'll let Phil answer the question.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Yeah, at the moment, the service is not able to provide the report for this meeting. However, it is due to go on the work programme when we get to the work programme section for the next meeting. We've had a new a change in personnel, as you know.
That's fine. Thank you very much.
It's very kind of you. Thank you. Right, so we move on then, shall we? There's no other action from the minutes of the last meeting. Declaration of interest we've heard from. There's no public questions, is there, Karen?
No public questions, Chairman.
Just out of curiosity, can you just clarify if anybody from the public wants to? Do they have to write in and ask for permission to come in? Just clarify so we're all know what actually happens.
The front doors are open from 6:15 to permit public access to the meetings until 6:30. So they're open for 15 minutes to allow public access. Public questions can be tabled direct at the BTAC committee, or if should they prefer, they can table questions in advance like at all the other committee meetings, Chairman. Okay.
And do we make this clear on the website? If anybody wants to come to the to this meeting, that's the procedure, and that's what actually happens. They have to do that.
Yeah, it's clear on the front of the agenda, Chairman. It's also, the opening times are also advertised on the website as well for each meeting.
Thank you very much, Karen. Much obliged. Right, that concludes the preliminary items. We'll go on to the first item of business this evening. It's the financial statement as at the commencement of the new municipal year. And this is on page 7 of your pack. And I'm going to ask the portfolio holder, Councillor Gosh, to present this report to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. As you already mentioned, the report is on page 7. This report provides an update to members on the BTAC financial position, showing the budget and outturn, the full year spend, for the 23-24 year and the BTAC reserves at the year end 31st of March 24. Outlined at Appendix 1, which is page 13, are the details of income and expenditure relating to BTAC for the financial year 23-24. The final outturn position was an overspend of 37,000, which has been offset by a contribution from reserves to ensure a break-even position. The opening balance of the BTAC reserves on 1st of April 23 was 328,000. The closing balance on BTAC's reserves as at 31st of March 24 is 118,000, after considering the minimum reserve of 70,000. So the recommendation is that members note the final financial position and the final reserve balance for 23-24. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Gosh. Are there any questions for the Councillor Izard? Yes.
Yes, looking at the spending, is there any reason for the public convenience spending to be much more higher than what was forecast?
Who's going to take the question?
Yeah, Phil.
If I remember from the last report, finance report, there was an issue with water leak in the park, which puts the price up. There's also elements of staffing. What we can do is for the next meeting is to have a breakdown again of the outturn to provide members with more information on the financial position at the end of the last financial year.
I think that would be good. Static figures like this don't really give us a story behind some of the spending. So it would be nicer if we could have a better, more fuller breakdown of the spending costs.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. That's a good point. Any other questions? Councillor Danny.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm just looking at the same thing, which is, I think, yeah, page 13. Other projects. I think it will be preferable if we know what other projects are they, because we have 13,000, then it's 7,000. So we are saving money there. So probably doing that, we're reducing our costs and make it look much more nice and more positive. So can we have any answer from Phil about that? Thank you.
I'd like to say that I tend to agree with all this because, you know, when you're trying to read documents and you're trying to guess what other things are that don't state what they are, it's very difficult to know where the situation lies. So, you know, this is a general comment from myself as the chairman. I'd like to see other things broken down into what they actually are so that we get a better understanding of what we're talking about. And is the 13 grand, is it across 6 other things, 1 other thing, 2 other things, or what? I think we need to have that clarity so that we can sit here in confidence knowing that we know what we're talking about, because at the moment we don't.
Yeah, I'll take that point. I'll just make sure that, yeah, you'll get in detail what exactly it is.
Thank you, Councillor Gosh, on that. Well done. Councillor.
Coming back to the public conveniences, I mean, that's a huge difference. It's 63,000. I think I'd be interested to know what the full breakdown of that is really. How we got to, you know, overspend of 63,000. I mean, that's just water. I reckon you could fill a reservoir with that, couldn't you? 63,000.
I don't believe it's all water, but yeah, I know there was a large cost of water, I think, due to a leak, and there may be other elements with staffing. I think if the next report, if we're able to provide a report with the budget for the year ahead plus the outturn with a bigger breakdown within that, it'll hopefully give you more information to be able to just to look at where costs have risen.
Yeah, because you need to flush the toilet, I don't know, once every second, would you? For an entire year?
I don't know about the reservoir, Councillor Woodliff. I think more like a long, massive leak, I think is what we're talking about here. Anyway, again, I agree. We need to have the breakdown, if we can, where this money is. Was it on a faulty cistern? Was it on water just spurting out? Was it on a burst pipe? What you know, just give us some idea so that we understand exactly how that number was arrived at. I think just whatever figure it is, and just saying it's a water leak. Well, I'm not being funny. That doesn't give me any confidence in what we're talking about. So I think if I could ask our financial guy and our director here to make sure in future we can have a bit more of a breakdown. It would be helpful coming to these meetings because I'm nosy and I like to know where the money's going, and I'm sure we all do. Are there any more questions, Councillor Gilbert?
Just sort of picking up on that point really, and just elaborating on it a little bit. I mean, it does seem that we spent a lot of money last year, and if we spent the same amount of money this year, we would have no money left. So it sort of focuses the mind a little in terms of how much we've got available to us and what projects we're in a position to finance.
Yes, and do you want to comment on that at all, Phil? Because we are concerned about the finances at the moment for BTAC, and I wonder if you could enlighten us a bit more, please.
Yeah, there is a challenge with in terms of budgeting going forward, where costs have risen across the piece, plus the other aspects where something goes wrong. Like I said, if there's a water leak, I think it was a pipe burst that caused the problem. So what we look to do is we did it before at a previous meeting where we broke down the actual cost. Also, we probably need to look at projections about where we feel the budget might be at the end of next year, because in case then there is a concern that more money maybe have to be drawn down from reserves to cover. There have been years where, of course, no preset didn't rise, which of course has a knock-on effect in future years. And as costs go up, if you haven't got money coming into the budget, that's always going to be a challenge. So I think if we'll speak to our finance colleagues about just trying to break it down as they have done previously, then at the next meeting we'll put a report on to discuss where we think we are going forward for this next financial year, and then what the potential is, because we've sort of, as we mentioned before, footway lighting is one of the aspects that was discussed previously about trying to bring forward. Can we reduce costs by investment, but what would that investment cost us to put in place for LED lighting across the all our footway lights?
Very helpful. Thank you very much indeed.
Councillor Austin.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm trying to rack my brain and think how many different public conveniences are there within the BTAC area. I think I've got to 4 or 5, but the water leak presumably was only at one of them. I mean, we've got the cattle market, we've got just outside Central Park, we've got Lincoln Lane car park, Garfit's Lane playing field. It's all, and
The change in place.
oh yes, you see, so how many are we talking about?
The toilets that come under BTAC is the cattle market, Lincoln Lane and Central Park. And I believe there is a little bit of work that's undertaken with the stump. I think that still goes on as one of the toilets that provided as part of an issue we had a few years ago. The leak, I understand from when we last looked at the finances, when that was raised, was in Central Park. And they had trouble, I think, if I remember rightly, finding the source of the problem. So that's, of course, that ended up as a cost to the council. But those are, and there are, as you said, there are changing places as well at Lincoln Lane, Central Park, and of course Cattle Market as well has been added in. Plus there's additional sort of accessible toilets we have as well at those sites.
Just follow-up question up. So although the Garfit's Lane playing field belongs to the borough, it's in the BTAC area, sorry, it's my ward, those are sort of, do they come under a different budget like playing fields and open spaces and so on?
Yes, okay, so I think we'd have to check the list, but I think if I remember rightly, Garfit's Lane isn't now part of BTAC. The playground is, and the multi-use games area, which is, of course, it was a BTAC investment along with some funding. But I don't believe the actual playing field it totally comes under BTAC. And I'll have to check on the mapping. They were we did sort of share with members the BTAC, all the BTAC sites and areas which are now listed. So I think Garfit's Lane wasn't actually part of that, but we can check and yeah, I don't think it was. Yeah. So well, because it's a council, so it's basically it's deemed as a council facility along with Roseby Avenue and other sites. So, but the play areas and the additions we put in there, which is like the multi-use games area, will come under the BTAC preset.
Just on this public convenience, and I don't want to sort of hang about with it all night, but I do feel that the officers should give us some indication of how long this leak or water spillage was going on for, because I think when you've got problems like that, they need to be dealt with straight away and not run for, running on for days or weeks. I mean, I'm not saying there have been, and I don't know, but the difference from the previous year to this year is quite colossal. And, there's a lot of water gone flowing through there for that difference. And, I just wonder, have we got our finger on the pulse here? And are people attending to these things? Because at the end of the day, they're wasting our money. Simple as that. BTAC money.
Chairman, yeah, what we can ask the service to provide a report to committee on what has happened and what has, to give an update on where things are. I don't believe. I'm trying to think back now for the last week. I'm not sure it was all. I think it was part of it was a leak, and part of it was other costs. But of course, unfortunately, sometimes until a meter's read and seen something, it's not always obvious that there is a leak. And trouble when you've got someone like Central Park, if it's going underground, it's often difficult to spot.
I think when we've got large differences from the previous year, I think there need to be some footnotes explaining why they are. And that's what we need to have that information in front of us. And at the moment, we don't have that, hence why we're asking all these questions. And I think future going forward, when we have these reports like this, some footnotes of large discrepancies or large differences need to be explained to the committee here so that we understand exactly what went wrong or where it's gone wrong. And I think if I could ask for that in the future. Councillor Gosh.
Yes, I absolutely agree that there is a huge variance compared to the budgeted amount. But I also want to ask one question to Phil. Like, obviously, this thing happened. This is, we cannot have a control, but obviously we can learn something from there. So what's the plan, like, to avoid these kind of situations in future?
Chairman, I'm afraid I'd have to defer back to the department responsible, but I think maybe what we perhaps ought to look in the work programme is a report coming forward to give an explanation of what the spend has covered and what has been done where there has been a problem that's caused the overspend.
And I also think when we've got issues like that, I think the officers should be here at this meeting to then talk us through the things so that we're not going to keep going backwards and forwards, finding out information months down the line. I think we need to have people here in front of us. Right, let's move on then to Councillor Danny.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, for the first thing, I think nobody noticed around £65,000. And what I used to do in the business is we do like for like. You always check your bills, previous one with the next one, or the one for the first quarter. I don't know how often we pay the water bill in this council, so you can see it. That's one thing. What I want to ask is we have the administration as well, which is up almost £20,000, and we have the public convenience. My question, administration, did we increase members of staff? Do we have more staff? And for the public convenience, I don't see any repairs. Is it included in that 220,000? Is it and all what we buy, all our goods, whatever we use for this toilet or public convenience? Do we have any breakdown? And how many workers are doing the cleaning? Do we know the hours? Because it will be nice if we have the breakdown, then we can understand how things work. Because at the moment we have just a lump sum of a figure which is increased by £65,000 almost, and there's nothing clear there. As I will say, it's just a figure which is, I think, it doesn't have any weight on it.
Thank you. This was reported back through one of our, I think it was the last meeting or meeting before. We can check back on the minutes. We did have the breakdown, so members have had sight of the breakdowns of what went through. However, what we can do is at the next meeting we can reissue, bring that back and have it broken down, but also look at projections for the year ahead, where we are at the moment, because that's the other aspect we need to keep an eye on in terms of the budget, is to make sure as we could progress through the year, if there are pressures that are coming to bear, that members are aware of them at that time.
Back, Mr. Chairman.
Yeah, go on.
Please, thank you. So my supplementary question, did we check if the water is fixed? Did we notice any change in the meter?
Can I comment on that? It's quite pertinent.
I think you're asking the wrong officer, because I don't think Phil just checked the water bills. And I think Matt Fisher, would be the one, wouldn't it?
No, Chairman, it would fall under,
Christian?
no, it would either be Vic Burgess or Andy Fisher. Not quite sure. It's sort of a combination, because I know the staffing come under Andy, but I think it's Vic. Yeah. I'll have to. I think if you can allow me to go away and just.
Well, we'll make a note of it, and then we'll come back on that one. But this is a problem. We've not got the officers here to answer the questions. You know, we're asking you to give us information that you can't, and we're actually having to wait another 2 or 3 months for the next answer. Go on, I'll let you come in, Councillor Cresswell.
Thank you, Chair. I do feel, sorry, I'm sat here and I've sat here quite quietly. To be quite honest, I feel like we're going round in circles. On page 3, on the minutes of the last meeting, the members noted a projected overspend. Public conveniences was noted, and water and sewerage. And on page 4, Councillor Gilbert actually raised this quite profusely. The Assistant Director reported that the issue was still under investigation. You yourself asked that, requested that a member of the operations team be here to attend this meeting to report on the matter, and they're not.
Right, we'll park that question now on there. So we need to get the information from the relevant officers. And you're quite right. Thank you very much for bringing that up. I appreciate that. I like numbers. I like to understand the breakdown of different things. Councillor Arambati.
My question was actually part of Emma's and part of Councillor Ghosh's. So what preventative strategies, we did discuss that in the last meeting. So what preventative strategies we can actually take in terms of preventing further such incidents? Would an insurance kind of, building insurance or something like that for the provision, would that be an option in the future? Or making the water companies responsible where exactly was the leak, and who is actually responsible for that particular aspect of leak?
I think the problem is we can't answer that question because we haven't got the information, and we're not the people responsible for running that department and that operation. So, and we can ask the question, and I'm going to ask it to be recorded, and I'm going to ask Phil and Karen to record it and come back. But I do believe that in future, we do need officers here responsible for these operations. So when we ask the questions, we're getting some answers, because I think it's unfair for Phil to have to try and give answers on behalf of other people who are not here. And I don't think it's fair on him. It isn't his department. And I've asked for officers to be here. We've said here, we want officers to be here, and I want it noting that from now on, we'd like officers here when they've got lots of questions and queries to come here and then answer the questions, and we don't have to keep going backwards and forwards and waiting another 2 or 3 months for the answers, because it just goes on and on and on, and that is not the way to run a business or a committee. Right, we'll come back to your point. We'll get the answers for you. Councillor Gilbert.
Pick up on the question or the query from Councillor Austin. I understand that Garfit's Lane was leased. Buildings there were leased to somebody on a long-term 5-year lease, which probably explains why BTAC doesn't have any responsibility for that pavilion area and the toilets.
Thank you for clarifying that, Councillor Gilbert. Councillor Izod.
Yes, good financial report, but do we have any income? There doesn't seem to be shown any income, only kind of outgoing. Do we not, as BTAC, ever produce some income revenue at all?
Yeah, yes, there is some income. I mean, public conveniences have income, so there are aspects within the total budget that would offset So when when you have the breakdown, you'll see how that's laid out. Where it's not isn't huge income into the BTAC services, and a lot of the services and events we provide is for the benefit of the community. So we don't charge for, and it's playgrounds, it's open space, it's those elements that we provide the services for in the main. There is a charge for using the main elements of our public toilets, and we'll be able to demonstrate that for you, break that down. Yes, there's a bit of rent comes in for the kiosk, and so there are bits and pieces that will be in the budget, will be broken down in there, and there'll be income lines.
Yeah, thank you for that answer. That's what I kind of expected, that, you know, we're paying out on Central Park. We should have some income if people put on events in Central Park going forward. And maybe we can look at long term whether we can use other aspects to maybe raise revenue for the BTAC, because if we're going to be overspending each year, it'd be nicer to reduce the overspending. And I'm sure my colleague down the end there will agree with me on that one.
As regards income, really, I mean, the BTAC precept or special expenses levy is the equivalent of what a parish council charges. But because, I mean, if I think of the only parish, I live within the parish of Wiverton, but it has a parish hall which it can make income on by letting it for numerous events almost every day of the week. So although we have our precepts that we collect, special expenses levy, we don't have ongoing, you know, that's just once at the beginning of the year, isn't it? Whereas we don't have something that we can let out for this function and that function. So that's where we're different from a parish, but we are the equivalent of a parish.
It might be worth a thought then for later on, not today, but probably in the future, of how we could raise additional funding or income, which is something we could look at. Councillor Woodliff.
I think there's a problem here because we are in a committee of the Borough Council, and as such, the Borough Council would have to establish the contracts. Well, I don't think our constitution allows us to set contracts up. So, because we're only a committee, we're not, although we are similar to a parish council, we're not a parish council. I mean, I'd like to see a town council for Boston. I really would like to see a town council here, but we are a committee of the Borough Council. So the Borough Council will set the contracts up. In a sense, Central Park belongs to the Borough Council. You know, it doesn't belong to BTAC, it belongs to us. It belongs to the Borough Council. So we receive an income through a special expense, through the, you know, that I think that's the only reasonable where we can actually obtain money. I don't think we really can extract money from other sources because we don't have any property.
I wasn't thinking about contracts. I don't think anybody else was.
Well, I did wonder about it.
We're just looking at whether there's any way we could raise additional money.
Well,
as Councillor Izard pointed out, if we keep going the way we're going, we should be zero in a few years' time, and we've got to be very careful.
Not with you in charge, Chairman.
You are kind. You could come again. Right. We will move on. I think we've done that. I just want to say that I appreciate all the questions. And I tell you what, you've actually amazed me today because the questions have been very detailed, very thorough, and you drill down into the documents here, and you've actually shown this lots of information not provided for us. And therefore, that's why we keep having to ask all these questions. And as I said again, I don't think it's fair for Phil to sit here and try and answer other people's department questions. What I'm going to ask Karen to do in the minutes now is to ask in future, when we've got issues and areas like this in the papers, we want to bring the relevant officers to the meeting to sit here and give us the answers, because that's what we expect from them. And that's what I'm going to say from now on going forward. I hope you don't mind me saying that. Thank you.
Add to what you say, just as to add, I think we need even a detailed, you know, figures, because when we get just one lump sum, you know, you keep asking and asking. If we have the details there, therefore we will not have to ask these questions, so we will know what's going on. It would be simple.
Well, even if the breakdown's there, at least you might want to ask a question about some of the breakdowns, but at least let's have a breakdown so we can understand exactly what the big number stands for and what's behind it, because that's what problem we've got at the moment. Big numbers with nothing behind it. Councillor Drake.
Okay, thank you. Do you think the drains were damaged through what happened with the fair?
Yeah, no, I believe this is nothing to do with the field itself. This is to do with the top end. It's I don't think it was. Like I said, I think it will have to. The difficulty is, a few years ago, I could have answered you because I used to be responsible for things like toilets and everything. I had all that, so I could have told you, but I'm a bit out of touch. So I think what I was going to propose to do is on the work programme is we have a report back. So I think there's a few things I was going to suggest, but no, I don't believe it's to do with the damage to the field. When they went through, there was nothing found to be an issue down there. I think it's somewhere, I'm not quite sure where, but that's what we need the report to find out.
Because the side of the park was wet for months where the skating area was. Absolutely sodden.
Yeah, the problem is with the last year, or the last we had 12 storms, one after the other, and although the field itself was quite churned, it's actually quite compacted, so water runs straight off and it's collecting. So it is sort of, we've not had weather like that for well, not that I've ever seen in since I've been involved with Borough Council. So that water did drain away very quickly once the weather sort of cleared up.
Okay, thank you.
Pity we didn't divert it into the public conveniences and saved ourselves a few quid. Anyway, we'll move on. Councillor Gilbert.
Last question from me on this issue. Just very briefly, I suspect there's a process issue involved in the relevant officers attending this meeting in particular, but maybe other meetings in general. And I wonder what the process is when something appears in the minutes for actually ensuring that the relevant officer who's been requested is actually able to identify their need to attend, if that makes sense. Whether there is a process or whether there isn't, that's what I mean.
It's a good question to ask.
Just after the last meeting, when it was raised about the toilet, it wasn't Matt Fisher who was the one responsible. So we have gone to talk to assets about trying to get reports back, because there has been a change in personnel. They only have one officer, so the new person has started and will need to be yes, and looking into all the issues and then going forward. So this is why I'm proposing that we actually get a proper report back to committee with the officers to come and actually explain, well, probably the service in detail, not just the issue about a water leak.
Thank you, Phil. I think if the officers can't make the meeting that's got the answers, then they should provide the answers to somebody like Phil or anybody else, other officer, to come on their behalf. So we've got somebody here to give us answers. Every meeting I go to, other committee meetings I go to, there's always officers there relevant to what we're talking about to give us the answers. And tonight we haven't got the answers, and that's pretty, there is a process, and that's pretty clear. Right, we're going to move on. Oh, sorry, Councillor Austin, off you go.
Well, it's really going to come up on the second item, but we are about to talk about the work programme. Well, as we start to populate, if I can use that awful word, this table, we shall know that, right, in September, say, we've got these things on the agenda, whatever we choose them to be, and we can be mindful, perhaps, of which officers might be appropriate for those. It was just that I think this meeting, we seem to be really just the finance, and that's on each time, really, isn't it? So we ought to be able to control slightly who comes.
I think going forward, when we know exactly what we're going to be talking about, what we're going to be doing, and what's on the agenda, and what the papers are going to be, that's the word planning, that we can plan in the officers to be in attendance, or if they can't make it, somebody else in their shoes can turn up. Right, we are going on to the work programme now, so we're going to item 2. Looking at the work programme for next year, there's 2 items which we discussed last time, and it was agreed to roll them over into the first meeting today. Do you want to talk about the 2 items, Phil, or shall I let you talk about them, or do you want me to?
That's fine, Chairman. I could pick that up for you. So the one of the first items we got on there is the footway lighting, which is an element that is of importance to the committee because of the potential opportunity to try and reduce costs going forward, because energy is a significant cost within the budget. The other, sorry, I'm just going to go quickly through what we just agreed now, then I'm going to go through what's coming. Sorry, I just thought it'd be easier just to clarify where we are.
Don't confuse us.
Yeah, sorry, I do apologise. Sorry, I just thought, since we've just discussed footway lighting, the finance breakdown is something I think should be cut if we look to bring that back to the next meeting, with just to be able to inform members of where things were and where things are going. And then also we did talk about public conveniences and just an explanation of where the outturn budget and why it is as high as it is and what has been done to rectify any issues that's come forward. So the committee also need to agree the scheduling of attendance by the police, which is usually sort of biannual. However, we understand there's a new police inspector, so the committee may want to invite him to come along at a very near future meeting. I don't know if you want to bring him to the next meeting, Chairman. Or
We had the police here last year and they did a very good job. I know they got a new inspector in charge, and I have met them, the one outgoing and the one coming in. I don't necessarily think this year we need the police here. I think we've actually had them last year, and I think it'd be wise to put that into next year. Are you happy with that? Unless anybody particularly wants the police to be here, I think they did a good job. Councillor Izard.
If not the police, is there a way that we can talk about the enforcement officers that we have and discuss their kind of role, what their responsibilities are? Because we do get a lot of feedback from residents asking why they're not doing more than we could expect. So if not the police, I would like to see maybe a discussion on our enforcement officers.
Are we all in favour of that? Are we all happy to have the enforcement officers come instead of the police, just so we can find out what they actually do? Councillor Cresswell.
I think it would probably be tying in with that. So if maybe we could have the police and the rangers both together, so we can look at it as like a three-pronged attack, if you like. What are the police doing? What do they need from us? What are the rangers doing? What do they need from us? And then how can we help them? We've got these small grants, we've got, hotspots. We talk to our residents, we know what's going on. So maybe it might be sort of a big agenda item for one of the meetings. So I don't know what other people think.
Yeah, happy to take thoughts and on that one. Councillor Darling.
Well, I totally agree with Councillor Cresswell and Councillor Izard for that suggestion. And I think we can include something else with it, which is CCTV cameras, because we have placed more cameras on the town and all around. How effective are they? Are the crimes down? Shoplifting, is it down? So we need to know these things, because I think, as Councillor Izard stated, a lot of the residents of Boston, they're confused because they still see a lot of crimes happening around them, near misses happening all the time. So we need to know where we stand, because then we can answer the public. If I may suggest something else, can I? There is one thing which is, I think, is always on my mind, which is I would like, if we can bring it back, is to know what sort of contract we have with Jeff Mulder, because we used to have some staff who belongs to Boston Borough Council. They were working for us, and now I think, from my information, they are working for the new company. So I would like to see an update what's happening with that, if we may. Thank you.
Chair, yeah, I mean that the Jeff Mulder isn't actually part of the BTAC remit. The reporting for the contract went through council and was went through cabinet and was approved, and there were member briefings on it. It's a 3-year transitional contract, and there will be further reports coming forward as we move forward into the future contracts. There'd also, I'm sure, be further briefings as well on the project to develop the leisure centre. So there will be meetings going forward, I'm sure, outside of BTAC. It may be better to, because there's going to be quite a full agenda I think as we go forward with some of the elements that BTAC really need to grapple with, and what we can do is just at the next meeting we can always kind of just find out what might be in the pipeline regarding the future of Jeff Moulder, just to keep members updated.
Okay, I'll go.
Yeah, there's been a request for Jeff Moulder to be updated at one of the scrutiny committees, so that will be on the schedule coming forward. And just for members' confirmation, at EMP on the 18th of this month, the annual ASB and crime report will be coming with the new inspector and the superintendent from Lincoln in attendance, and also the annual CCTV report update and work of the last year for CCTV will report. So that is all automatically coming through EMP as part of the scrutiny process. So members will get that information in detailed reports, and we should the agenda tomorrow, just so you know that's going to be there as well for you for reference. Okay.
Thank you. So we're going to Councillor Gilbert.
Just as another potential item for the work programme, a parish council, we've made reference to parish councils. Parish councils take responsibility for their town boundary signage and the boards that sort of denote you entering a parish or whatever. And I've just recently refurbished or repaired 3 of the boards because they were in a very dilapidated state, very dilapidated condition. Having two or three years ago actually replaced 3 boards and repaired 2. And I think we were in the ignominious position at one point of being on the front page of the Sunday Times with a very dilapidated looking board all falling to pieces, and it's somehow a symbol of what Boston had become. So I just wonder whether there's some merit in having a conversation about that. I know it's a fairly small, trivial matter, but if these boards deteriorate to the extent that they potentially can do, they're only made of marine ply, they're not made of anything particularly substantial. It does give a very poor impression of the town as people enter the town boundary. So whether or not BTAC maybe should take some more formal responsibility for those. I'm quite happy for volunteers to be involved, but just to ensure that we know that these things are becoming dilapidated, we're not relying on someone like me driving past thinking, oh, all the paint's falling off. I better get those in and get them repaired.
Any other items on that? Anything you want to say on that one, Phil?
Yeah, just another one. A suggestion which was supported by several members for the new term was the involvement of the various neighbourhood groups within the committee. So suggestions at the time were one, to attend a meeting as observers to gain perspective of the committee, or for to hold an informal meeting of BTAC, not streamed and not published, and invite representatives of various groups to come along and hold informal discussions on their groups. Receive simple overview on what BTAC does from the chairman and ask questions of how BTAC could help, because we have a number of grant pots and things that we may be able to support. This would provide a position on how they operate as well. They in turn would gain an insight into BTAC, and any support of further involvement between the two parties could be identified. A welcome pack or other could be provided to hand out with the key parts of BTAC contacts, etc., and then an overview provided. Does that sound something that members would be interested in considering?
I'm just going to speak. There's a thought on this that perhaps we might have 2 meetings. One is on community groups, and then probably charities and good causes within the community. So if you have them all together, it will become a very big bloated meeting. And I think perhaps we might need to look at having 2 separate meetings. Bear in mind the number of community groups there are in BTAC area, and bear in mind the number of good causes and charities in the BTAC area. It might be worth separating the 2 and having 2 separate meetings, members briefing meetings, and they come here, not in the gallery down there, but come here and actually sit and talk to us, and we explain about what we do and who we are and how we can help them. And with the Small Grants Committee, Maddie could come and talk to the charitable people and the good cause people about how she operates the grant system and what sort of process you do. So I think that's 2 good ideas there that we could look at doing as a work programme. So can we put that down as, I'm very happy with that idea. You look a bit confused, Councillor Gilbert.
A bit confused. My point was really that we are responsible as the sort of pseudo parish council for the town boards and the signage that welcomes people as they come into the town. And I was just thinking maybe we should sort of formally try and create some sort of arrangement whereby this committee keeps some oversight over what sort of condition that they're in. And I don't know. I mean, it's just that if we were a parish council, we'd be very alert to that, and we're not alert to it, and these things just rot away.
So are we talking about the welcoming boards to each area within the BTAC area, or are we talking about all of them that's dotted around the borough?
The boards that I've repaired,
Yes.
as you enter from Wibberton predominantly,
Yes.
you've got the boards on Spilsby Road, you've
Yes.
got Sleaford Road, and you know they very rapidly deteriorate,
Okay.
and they start to sort of fall apart very quickly. And it's taken 2 years to get them to the point where they need to be repaired again.
Right.
Now, I was happy to do it,
Mhm.
but if I'm not available to do it, then nobody would do it. And for me, there's a problem there. You've got some quite valuable assets. I mean, to put that out to private tender probably cost £1,000 a board. But if someone can just put a lick of paint on every couple of years and give it a coat of varnish, it's not going to take much time at all. But how do we incorporate that into a regular maintenance routine?
I think we could incorporate that with the community groups coming to the meeting and the private meeting and discussing some of the areas like that, and see if we can get volunteers to come along and support. You know, you might get sign makers coming to the meeting, you might get people who are decorators and varnishers or whatever. I mean, I think that's something you could bring up to inside the meeting. That's a topic you could bring up, and it would then cover the point that you're making. It would then look about getting these boards changed. I'm not sure we've got any money in for signage, have we, for boards, Phil? Tell me.
No, I mean, currently the town sort of boundary boards doesn't fall to BTAC, but Councillor Gilbert makes a good point, because you had, not the first time, is it? You've done it a few times. It's twice a year to repair them. But I mean, we do of course have BTAC officers as well internally who may be able to assist. But I do agree, there are groups out there who might be interested in, there's wood carving groups, there's mosaic groups, there's a number of groups who may be interested in getting involved.
Yes. So that would cover your topic and point. Now I understand where you're coming from, and I totally agree with you, and you know, I appreciate what you say there, and I think that is something we could do by bringing it into the meeting with these two groups. So can we just clarify that we're happy with community groups one meeting and good causes and charities another meeting, with Maddie being there, sort of thing? Yes, lovely. Okay, so let's take some questions quickly. Then Councillor Austin.
Sorry. In some respect, what I've got in mind would overlap with Councillor Gilbert's one about the signs. I would like us to have a full audit of BTAC assets. You know, what belongs to BTAC and what belongs to the council and what belongs to anyone else for that matter. Okay, you know, I don't quite know how you work it. And the other thing is, because 1 year runs into another, and I've been doing this for quite a long time, did we have LHP last year, or was it the year before? That's good. Then we could cross them off. Good. Okay. So just assets.
I'm not sure about the assets, and I'd have to ask Phil to investigate that to see what length and degree we could get the detailed assets of BTAC, and perhaps I'll have Councillor Gosh as well to sort of think about that one, because it is a big area, and I'm not sure whether they could whittle it right down to the last item on the list. I don't know. You'll have to come back and let us know on that one. But we'll take your question and we'll go and find out and see what we can find out for you, Councillor Austin. Right, Councillor Danny.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is just I think small thing, which is being in town all the time. We don't engage with the businesses in town. I think we should, as BTAC, engage with businesses in town and see if we can help or they can help us and work together, because I think it will be very vital for BTAC, because most of the shops, most of the things happening around the town centre is under the remit of BTAC, basically. And I think an invite to some of them to come and talk and see what's their experience. And that we can include it with the CCTV cameras, with the shoplifting, with the crimes around. And I think we can get engaged with them, with the people, I mean, in a good communication. If we build good bridges with them, I think it will help everybody to improve the town. And I think we can take pride in the town more. I think we should get engaged with people and see what's happening. Because I'll just give an example, because the young man who is opening this barber shop at the has a lot of problems, but I managed, he came and I managed to give him some advice, and he took his sign straight away, because I told him, if you look at that sign and you think it's fit for purpose, it looks nice, you keep it. And he said, oh, actually, you're right. And he took it straight away. So I think us as BTAC, if we get engaged with this sort of businesses, I think we can improve them by giving them advice. And I think it can work. If you can see what I mean,
Yeah, no,
Mr. Chairman.
I do see what you mean, because when I was a councillor before, the previous, not the last 4 years, the 4 years before that, we did have quite a few sessions. I can remember Karen organising it. We had quite a few sessions in here where we had various companies, didn't we, Karen? Company visitors came, and we had lots of dialogue with them, and we were getting to find out what they liked or didn't like. And I don't know whether the Boston Town strategy or the Boston Town deal people have been talking to the businesses. I don't want to fall over ourselves and do something that somebody's already doing. So perhaps you could enlighten us, Phil, on that one.
I believe there is some work with businesses through the Boston Town strategy, and that will be going, I think, for an all-member briefing at some point, that's planned. So I think it may be a mechanism to engage through, and it would be good if BTAC members were able to get more involved in that as that strategy rolls forward and delivers. So they might want to come back on once we know a bit more about how the strategy and the work within it. There's lots of work streams within the strategy are rolled out, and what works, what doesn't work, and it may be that BTAC members are able to add value to some of that work that's ongoing.
Yeah, and I sit on that group anyway, as the chairman of BTAC. So I represent the BTAC committee and wards on your behalf. And we do talk a lot about the town centre and things like the businesses. So let's just check that out to see what they're up to. And I don't want to be doing something that they're, to duplicate what they're already doing. But I will keep you posted, and we'll come back to the next meeting and let you know what's going on. Okay?
Yeah, fully. I totally agree with you, and I think it's a good step for us to go forward to make people aware that we're involved, and we can advise and we can see what we can do.
Happy with that. Thank you very much, Councillor Woodliff.
Thank you, Chairman. I suppose really I'm going to ask the question I've asked before, and is there any interest in looking for a town council of Boston as opposed to BTAC? Because I think that in a way, BTAC loses, well, Boston loses out in a way. Every parish has got a parish council. Every area around the borough has got a parish council except Boston. So the borough represents Boston, BTAC represents Boston, but there's no town group really for it, you know what I mean? No town council. And when I must say, when the peer group came here, one of the things that they said to me, we're surprised you haven't got a town council. So I think we need perhaps have a look at
something that I've actually discussed with Councillor Gleeson on many occasions. So
I'm sure.
I don't know where we stand on that.
No, do I.
That's the topic, something we could have a discussion later today. Perhaps you could enlighten us on that.
Perhaps we could, regard this, say March, there's what, meeting in March, is it? March 2025, that's a long way ahead. We could then perhaps pencil it in as a possibility for discussion. Then we got plenty of time to consider.
Yeah. So I'm just, I mean, as I also said, Spalding is the same. It's non-parish, but this has been debated and looked at fairly recently. Karen, if I remember rightly, there are the outcome at the time was should Boston become part of a unitary authority, then of course the town council would be a natural progression from that to come out. There are of course risks with a town council in terms of costs, and when you look at the remit of Boston, most town councils aren't as big and don't have as many assets and facilities that the BTAC look after. So that was sort of the outcome, was to wait until that came forward. There's nothing wrong with members, of course, wanting to revisit that and look at it, but it is something that perhaps we should bring out what that report was. It was, I was trying to think how, was it 18 months? 18 months ago, yeah. Yeah, we have.
I mean, I accept there's pros and cons. Obviously, it's quite a major step for any area to go down that pathway. However, as has been mentioned, there's a possibility that we might end up with unitary here. In which case, if that happens, we need to move very fast. We need to be ready for that option should it arise, if there's decision to go for unitary for the three councils. And I think that's highly likely, in which case then we need to be ready to go.
I think we've noted that, and I think we will look at that.
Thank you.
We'll look at the report, and I think we should keep that on the agenda, on the back burner, just in case. So we may have to move quickly if the opportunity arises. Councillor Izard. Yeah.
Sorry, just to step back. I absolutely believe we should have engagement with community groups and charities, and I fully endorse that. I just wondered, have we ever had a definitive list of those groups in the BTAC area, and when was it last updated to know whether it's current, so that when we invite out, we are inviting out to all the groups and making sure that those groups are still operating.
Nick Holden has got all the information.
We do have officers who have really good networks, within the town, and whether they've got it up, I don't know how complete any list they may have is, but this is not potential opportunity to do this, is to put an invite out, may draw in groups that we're not aware of.
I also think that that if we do have these meetings, I think we need to get the PR people here, the communications team here, to really push the boat out, and do social media and press releases and whatever they can do, and on websites and whatever. The amount of publicity, because I think if we're going to do these community groups, Councillor Izard, I think people need to know about it, and there's going to be people not on these lists because these groups are popping up all the time. Somebody's forming a new this, forming a new that. So we're going to make sure we use the lists, which are probably up to date anyway. And I've met Nicola Holderness, and I've met I can't even think of the other lady, Emily Spicer. So they are pretty switched on. But I think there's also people out there that might be thinking of setting up a new group or doing a charity or whatever, and we need to get to them as well and make sure they turn up at the meeting as well. So good question, and thank you very much, and we will pursue that. Councillor Gilbert.
Just a couple of observations really about the town council suggestion. I mean, firstly, I think the reason we don't have a town council is because we're not a district council, we're a borough council. I think that's one major issue. All the towns in the East Lindsey District Council, for example, Horncastle, have their own town council. The problem with us doing it is because we are a borough council, we would, if we were to go down some sort of legal route where we could create a separate entity in the form of a town council, we'd have to have quite a high precept to actually manage our independent sort of legal status, which means we probably pass costs onto the community that we can avoid passing on to the community while we're constituted through BTAC. But I certainly agree it's something that needs to be looked at if we're ever moving towards a position of being part of a unitary authority. And we'd also acquire some assets which carry liabilities like the Guildhall, for example.
I think it's something that we probably could put on the work programme to do at a later date, and then select a small group of people to do a little project. Do a review on working group on that, and I think that's something we should. Yeah. Task and finish group. Yeah, something like that. So we'll make a note of that one, please, and then we will pursue it. Right. Any more questions on the work programme? Can I just green flag, Phil?
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah. So in terms of work programme, you'll remember that there was a proposal that we look at trying to work towards a green flag, and again that's sort of in the Boston Town strategy as well. We've got a small working group, and what we'd like to do is to get a meeting with the working group to just talk about where we've got to. We've spoken to Lincoln, and they are submitting an application which, if successful, they would like to receive us for a trip to have a look at what they do, and so really, unfortunately, Councillor Gleeson's not here this evening, but Councillor Gilman and Councillor Daniel, it's really about when it would be easy to have get a meeting together. Would that be an evening? So to try and just make sure that we can sit down, talk it through, talk through where we got to, where we are, give you an idea of what is possible, and then look at where we want to go. Would an evening meeting would be?
Well, for me, any time I can create time in the daytime to come. If it's in the evening, it's fine.
I wonder if we could try and get the meetings either before another meeting, so we're not having to keep coming back and forwards. You know, because I've lived there all this week, and you know, I've sort of, if I don't come in tomorrow, I've done a 5-day week here. So what I'm trying to think is if we can try and get the meetings either before another meeting, just for an hour, or after a meeting, I don't mind stopping behind, and try and tie it in so we not keep dragging people, you know, all the time backwards and forwards. I say I've been here all week and I haven't gone home yet. So it'd be nice if we could try and tie it in with other meetings where the people on that group are going to be together. I am. Yes, and I think it's Councillor Gleeson. There's 4 of us.
4, yeah.
Do you want anybody else to join? Anybody else want to join the group? If you want to. Oh, that's a possibility. I'm on holiday that week.
I'll cross it out.
But let's let you coordinate that and try and get a date together for all of us to get together when we're all going to be here as one, if possible. If not, we'll have to just try and figure another night or time that suits us all to be here. All right.
Okay. I'll. Karen, we'll pick up.
And I think it needs to be sooner than later, don't you?
Yeah, because I really want it before July, because we need to do the work ourselves, but also I want to be able to have a briefing before we go and have a look, so we know what we're walking into.
So can we just recap on the work programme of items for discussion so that we're all clear what we've actually agreed to put on this programme, and then we can make sure that we can start putting it on the schedule of what's going to happen where and when, so we can invite the right people there and the right officers and so on. So can we just go through that between us? Can you?
Yes, Chairman. So basically we've got for the next meeting, we've got BTAC small grants, which is already on agenda, but we've got footway lighting is one we want to discuss, a breakdown in a finance breakdown report, public conveniences update. We've got 2 meetings looking at working with charities and community groups.
2 separate meetings.
2 separate meetings, yeah. So there'll be 2. Yeah, I think we would. I'll give you. We might look at Mandy for both because that's an opportunity.
But they're going to be closed meetings, though.
Yeah. But it'd be good to be able to. She'll be able to also give a little bit about what the answer was. What is. We're going to look into the BTAC assets separately. We'll see what we can look at, and that'll be just an update if we can find that. And we've got the task and finish in terms of town council element to just review, because what the group could do.
The paper of that.
Yeah, what we could do is if we can get the copy of the last report we did on that to share with. And then we did talk about enforcement, but some of that may go to scrutiny. Karen, is that one for? Sorry, no. Then we did talk about enforcement as well. Police and rangers, but there's. It is going to scrutiny. Yeah. So, So the police might, need to give them 2 or 3 meetings notice. Yeah.
We didn't talk about police. We talked about the enforcement officers, didn't we? Coming in, the rangers.
Yeah, and that's an element that I think scrutiny have got on the agenda. So it's whether. Yeah. So it may be worth if members wish to attend scrutiny to see that, and then if anything comes out of that isn't, maybe we could pick that up again if that's okay after that scrutiny meeting. Is there anything else going on?
Does anybody else want to raise any other ideas before we close the meeting on things for the work programme? Any other issues, topics that you think the business thing we're going to look at to see how that's going to be done with the Boston Town Strategy and then come back on that one. So we've got that one in hand. Any other thing, Councillor Matty?
The enforcement one, would it be better if we have it as a separate meeting to brainstorm ideas rather than the one with the scrutiny, or in addition to that, perhaps?
To say a bit, because enforcement isn't a BTAC function as such. Normally, it will go through the scrutiny. I think if there's anything that falls out of it that is a concern, or maybe then it's probably worth picking up those specific elements, maybe perhaps at a meeting we could look at that. But I think it's probably worth letting scrutiny do their piece of work, and it would be good for members to attend that to see what is being said, and often things like statistics that they do provide. Statistics I know CCTV will give you, and so it's a very informative scrutiny meeting and really worthwhile attending if members can. I did realise there was one thing we did talk about for a later meeting, was looking at funding and income options as well.
Yes.
Potentially.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. I go back to you to the enforcement. If we go to that meeting first and see what they've got to say, there might be something that we could take away from there for our own meeting at a later date, which we don't think is covering what we want to do in this group, this committee group.
Chair, as well, there's also at some point there's like to be a member briefing about the Boston Town strategy, and there's elements within that as well, purple flag, and there's other things that will come out of that may be of interest to and help in terms of some of the elements around enforcement and the rangers and please work, please.
Okay, Councillor Izard.
Yeah, I agree. We will do that first meeting first on before we go any further on that one. I was kind of wondering whether for the BTAC area we could discuss recycling of rubbish and the disposal of rubbish in the town centre, how we go about it, what we could do. The more I visit other areas, they go to the areas where they have two bins, one for recycling and one for general rubbish. And we just make sure that all our residents use one type of bin only. And yet we try to encourage them in their own households to recycle as best they can. So is there something that we could look at regarding that kind of measure going forward in the BTAC area, just in the BTAC area? And what happens to the rubbish that we collect, where it goes to, how often it is, how many street cleaners we have. So a whole meeting on
it's
that
about
kind
keeping
of
the environment clean and tidy, isn't it, really, what you're saying? But then you've got to make sure you've got the facilities there to cope with it. Phil?
Chair, yeah, I mean, we could always look to get street cleansing, a report on about street cleansing, what they do, how they do it, because yes, it's crucial to the functioning of the town and the town centre. So I'm sure we can put that on a future meeting to look at getting an update on.
But if we have a report, I'd like somebody to be here to answer any questions that knows what the report's about, rather than you trying to struggle on your own to give us the answer.
No, we would ask the service to come and present on their service.
Yes, the answer is yes. Councillor Gosh, waiting patiently.
Oh, yes, I'm just listening, yeah. The point which is raised regarding the income generation, I fully support that. And for that reason, if any members have any ideas, it's more than welcome to share those ideas. We can always discuss on that in our next meeting, And before coming here, we can always do a bit of a research. Phil is there, so yeah, it's always a good way going forward.
I think it would be useful for us to know what the perimeters and boundaries are of raising monies and what we can and can't do, because we talked about it earlier and we can't do, somebody suggested contracts. Well, I've never thought about contract because that's what the council do, but I'd be interested to know what the boundaries and parameters are of what ways we can raise any income. And that's something that as a committee, have we got any authority on that or not, or or can't we not do that at all? I'd like to understand that, to be honest, myself, because I'm not clear as a committee what we can and can't do regarding generating income. Unless, of course, I go on the street and wave a tin and give flags out or something. I have no clue. So anyway, let's go. But point taken, and I agree with you. So thank you very much for that, Councillor Gosh. Councillor Danny.
All I want to talk is about the recycling and stuff. I think there's a lot of all the businesses in town, they do recycling. There is a day for the cardboard, there is a day for plastic, glass, because we have pubs and things. So they do the recycling. The only thing which is the inconvenient with Boston is the timing of the Boston Borough Council when they collect the stuff, because sometimes they don't come. And I think things, get out of control, and I think it's the fault of Boston Borough Council. I can say that broadly. So as I say, it works. Regarding generating money, I think our precept is to give money more like it than making money. The only thing where we get confused and is the location. For example, Central Park, when we hire it to someone who takes that money, who benefits from that money. Yes. So, but we are the one who is looking after that and paying the thing. So this is what we have to understand. I mean, the cost of the water leak, it comes on our back. But then the benefit of taking the money, it's taken by the Boston Borough Council.
Well, you're right there. If we're funding the cost of something and then someone else is taking all the income, that really does defeat our objective of what we're doing.
Chairman, I mean, in terms of BTAC in the past, where if there's community events, you know, and that they're often we've often have provided the park for free. However, if it's commercial events, then we have traditionally charged, and you know, so I think we could review all this to see, you know, the fees, because as we get into budget setting, then of course fees and charge setting, all those, so it may be good to review. There are some things which will be on a lease, you know, like the kiosk maybe that has a charge. We may not be able to vary that. We have things on license in the past, you know, so it's worth a look. It isn't huge income for us. You know, the toilet income, that price could be put up. You know, there are things that can be looked at. So perhaps we need to try and break that down so you get a list of what we do currently, review that, and then it, you know, look at what potentially could be added if possible.
It'd be nice to be in control of our own destiny. That's what I always say. Councillor Armabath. Yes.
I just wanted to have some clarity around the waste management. And when we say recycling, what do we actually do? And, you know, would the waste actually, because, you know, previously they used to send it to the, you know, sort of third world countries for managing what we call, you know, the recyclables. So what does it actually kind of, you know, where does it actually end up? And whether we can actually kind of, you know, do a waste management strategy and, you know, sort of manage our own waste, including recycling and stuff. I
expect that there is waste management strategy in place for the council. Remember, the waste is also a counter-council element, so it isn't something that BTAC generally would be involved with. I mean, there is. I'm sure waste goes through scrutiny as well. Yeah. So it'll be a scrutiny topic, but I think where perhaps BTAC has had more influence in the past has been in terms of the town centre itself. It wasn't that long ago that BTAC actually funded a lot of bin replacement to smarten up the town centre and the wider town. So I think the street cleansing, the bins, the questions on recycling, you know, and how it's dealt with can be going. I did put down maybe commercial opportunities because there is also business. There is a service to businesses as well, in terms of so maybe a report on what goes on in the town itself is something that would be really suitable.
Basically pertaining collection and not sorting or recycling in the actual sense.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. I think it's probably worth looking at the scrutiny programme in terms of, because there will be, because the council have a waste responsibility and we have a collection responsibility. So there is I think there's a county strategy if I'm thinking about for waste. So but I think where we, in terms of town centre and street cleansing itself, sweeping, cleaning up, you know, and bins, how they manage that's something that perhaps would be a good topic.
Yeah, just for confirmation, about 18 months ago, again, we're going pre the new regime, there was a detailed report come through scrutiny on the street cleansing regime. So we can ask to revisit that if you want to. It was very detailed, covered all areas.
Right, I think we've got enough on the work programme there to keep us busy for the next 12 months, for the sounds of it. Are you going to lay these out in some sort of date order so we know what we're doing? They ain't going to all happen in next month, are they?
No, I think there are bits I think we need to look at immediately, which was the bits we started with, the footway, the finance breakdown, and I think public conveniences, because that is an issue. And then I think what we'll do, if that's okay, we'll try and allocate them out and then come and catch up with you at the briefing to make sure you're happy with with the way, with the order we have.
It'd be nice if we can get this out to the members around the committee on this, so they can see what we've got planned, you know, over the next 12 months or whatever how long we're going to do it for, because then that gives them chances to see what we're going to be talking about and what we're going to be dealing with on each committee meeting. Plus the fact we want to make sure the right people turn up at the right meeting as well. Okay, happy with that. Well, we do. Right, so I'm going to end the meeting now, folks. I think we've had a really good discussion. I thank you for the input. The questions have been quite, as I say, drilling down. We've really gone into town on these, and it's been really fruitful. I'm sorry that we've had to ask Phil lots of difficult questions because he's not in charge of it all, but he's done a very good job there. I'd like to thank Karen as well for all the work she's done. And I'd like to thank you all for being here this evening, and nice to see